Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. There is one important senator, a very popular senator, I'm talking about the independent from Vermont, Bernie Sanders. What's up, Bernie? Who not only believes that more work needs to be done by the White House, by President Biden on the infrastructure plan, but he also believes that the Republican Party is moving too far to the right and ignoring the needs of the American people. That's what we're going to dig into in this episode of Ignition Time. Welcome to our channel, everyone. Here's a new headline on your screen from CNN. Biden calls his infrastructure plan bold. Bernie Sanders says more work needs to be done as far as infrastructure is concerned. In fact, in a very interesting interview, Bernie Sanders, I believe, sort of played fast and loose with the definition of the word infrastructure. Traditionally, when we think of the word infrastructure, we think of roads, we think of bridges, we think about our airports, we think about the state of our railroads, we think about the state of our tunnels, we think about the state of our internet. But Bernie Sanders had essentially a new component. He called it human infrastructure. Yep, you heard that right. Bernie Sanders said that we need to invest in both physical infrastructure and human infrastructure. Here's a comment from Bernie that jumped out at me. He said, I think many of us see a crisis in human infrastructure when a working class family can't find good quality, affordable healthcare. That's human infrastructure. He said, I think now is the time to begin addressing our physical infrastructure and our human infrastructure. I want to see that happen as soon as possible. So folks, one person who's not going to support the infrastructure plan, in fact, that person is going to make sure none of the Republican members in the Senate support the infrastructure plan is, you guessed it, the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. Here's a very interesting segment featuring the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, where he was asked about vaccine hesitancy, and he was asked if former President Trump played a role in vaccine hesitancy. In some very interesting remarks, Mitch McConnell said, I don't know what the reason for it is. I got the vaccine as soon as possible and I was eligible, and I would encourage everyone else to do it. Let's roll the tape and check out these interesting comments from the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell.
You mentioned that Republican males have been hesitant to get the vaccine. Why do you think that is? And do you think former President Donald Trump played a role in that? Thank you.
Oh, I don't know what the reason for it is, and I'm not even sure it's accurate. But I read that, and I thought, well, maybe it makes sense for me to say, since I'm a Republican man, I got the vaccine as soon as I was eligible and would encourage everyone else to do it.
Speaking of getting everyone on board, one of the major components of the infrastructure plan from President Biden is raising corporate taxes. And the US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is pushing for a global minimum tax, making sure that all countries across the world charge a minimum tax rate of companies to prevent what she calls a race to the bottom. Here's an interesting comment from the US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. Competitiveness is about more than how US headquartered companies fare against other companies in global merger and acquisition bids. She said it is about making sure that governments have stable tax systems that raise sufficient revenue to invest in essential public goods and respond to crisis, and that all citizens equally and fairly, in fact she uses the word fairly, share the burden of financing government. And according to reporting from Axios, Biden has been relying on Yellen to convince the business community and reassure Wall Street that his $2 trillion infrastructure proposal, on top of his $1.9 trillion stimulus package, will not lead to inflation. Now he's deploying her, meaning the US Secretary Janet Yellen, to convince international finance ministers and central bankers that the world's biggest economies need to act together in concert on corporate income taxes to avoid a race to the bottom. Let's actually check out comments from the US Treasury Secretary, where she says the global minimum tax, the global minimum corporate tax would, I quote, stop the race to the bottom. Let's check out what she had to say.
Recognizing that it's important to work with other countries to end the pressures of tax competition and corporate tax base erosion. We're working with G20 nations to agree to a global minimum corporate tax rate that can stop the race to the bottom. Together, we can use a global minimum tax to make sure the global economy thrives based on a more level playing field in the taxation of multinational corporations and spurs innovation, growth, and prosperity.
Now, if you thought that was interesting, I think comments from Bernie Sanders, the one and only, are even more interesting. Here's an interesting quote from Bernie Sanders. Unfortunately, Republicans in Congress who are moving very far to the right, who are not only ignoring what the American people want to see done, they are often ignoring what people in their own party want to be done. And he said, if you're a Republican mayor in this country, you understand that you need significant help in infrastructure. If you are a Republican in agricultural area, you understand what climate change is doing to your ability to produce the crops you need. Pretty interesting comments. In fact, let's roll the tape and hear from the one and only Bernie Sanders. Let's watch.
So do you think that things that one could argue are important but not necessarily part of an infrastructure package, such as dealing with college debt, you think that that should be part of the bill?
Well, it depends on what you call infrastructure. Roads and bridges and tunnels are infrastructure. But I think many of us see a crisis in human infrastructure. When a working class family can't find good quality, affordable childcare, that's human infrastructure. One of the areas that I am working on right now is the need to expand Medicare in order to provide dental care and hearing aids and eyeglasses for millions and millions of seniors who need these services but can't afford it. Is that infrastructure? I think it is. Look, Jake, the truth is, in so many ways, we are behind many other countries throughout the world in providing for working families and the elderly and the children. And I think now is the time to begin addressing our physical infrastructure and our human infrastructure. And I want to see that happen as soon as possible.
That's it, everyone. Let me know what you think of comments from Bernie Sanders as both sides essentially gear up for a showdown on infrastructure. Bernie Sanders wants more done. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wants more done. And on the other hand, the conservative senator from West Virginia, Joe Manchin, there he is. What's up, Joe? Does not want to raise the corporate minimum tax. And then you have the US Secretary Janet Yellen being deployed internationally to try and get a global syndicate, if you will, a global consortium, a global consensus to make sure that corporate income taxes don't go down, essentially trying to establish US leadership in getting a consensus from other countries to avoid a race to the bottom. A pretty interesting turn of events. Let me know what you think. Also, what you think of Bernie Sanders' comments about the Republican Party not being in touch with their mayors, their governors, and their local constituents. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. Please click the like button. Please subscribe. Please enable notifications. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm. I want you to know I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.